When your life causes you to really know what you don't want, which causes you to launch powerful rockets of what you do want, and there's a big vibrational variance chronically between how you're feeling a lot of the time and who you really are. That's pressure that is painful. There is not anything worse than to be physically focused in your human form and to be depriving yourself of the expansion that this life has helped you to carve out. And so sometimes, because of the circumstances that are surrounding people, and by that we mean most humans, doesn't have to be this way, but it is this way for most humans offer most of their vibration and therefore practice themselves into a grid based upon what they are observing, what's going on around them. So in some situations, you're observing such that's causing huge expansion, but the very observation of the very stuff that caused you to expand is also keeping you from finding an easy way to that expansion. So the crevasse between who you really are, who you've evolved to, and who you're allowing yourself to be is great and therefore painful. So we're talking about all of these ways of going general in order to allow yourself to let the things that you've put into your vortex flow in. And you can get to the big stuff incrementally, or you can get to the big stuff on the rough ride. The big stuff's there for you. In other words, you cannot stop clarifying life. It just must get better. You cannot stand in a moment in time where you are perceiving what's going on without being aware that it could be a little better in this way and this way and this way and this way. And to the degree that you keep up then vibrationally by caring about how you feel. We're going to just jump in here for a minute and then we'll throw it back to you. But we really want to build this foundation because this is really the leading edge of deliberate creation. So you think we're a little schizophrenic because we say, focus on what you want. And then we say, don't focus on what you want if what you want isn't happening. Because if you focus upon what you want from your awareness that isn't happening, then you practice a contradictory vibration to what you really want. So then we began saying, what you want's in the vortex. So you just chill. Have a massage, pet your cat, go for a swim, meditate, do anything that you can do to put yourself in a place of non-resistance. And then the grid will begin to fill in. And so then physical friends would say, but I like to be specific. But when I'm specific and it's not going well, then I'm shooting myself in the foot. So we say, well, be aware. Be as specific as you can be and still feel good. Because you want to be specific. But here's the thing that we most want to introduce into this conversation. It isn't you that is being specific. It's the grid filling in that is bringing the specifics. And if you can follow that, in other words, so Abraham, are you really saying that I'm just observing and throwing stuff out there and then I'm just finding a way to line up with it, and that as it fills in and I observe the specifics, that that's really what creation is? And we say, that's what it is. How about that? So now, here's another piece of it that's really good. So if you can go general and stay there long enough with non-resistance, that's why meditation helps you, then as your grid begins to fill in and you begin to notice it, what happens is you get better and better and better and better at discerning the subtleties of those specifics. Did you follow that? In other words, it's fun when you say, I want that, and it's big and you point at it and it comes. That's fun. That's fun. But the real deliciousness, if you're an artist, you want to get really good at it. You don't want to paint with a great big old paintbrush that you'd paint the house with if you're painting on canvas. In other words, you want something that is more refined, don't you? And so the same thing is true with this energy. Once you get the hang of this and you begin to feel the subtleties, so then it becomes as satisfying. Here it is. This is what we've been reaching for. So what humans misunderstand most about creation, because you are material oriented, and that's just fine because everything that is here in material form is spiritually based. Everything that you see is. But because you are manifestation oriented, you tend to mess up your vibrational momentum by looking at the what is, which sometimes is the opposite of what's in the vortex and what you're really wanting.
Right.
Let's see if we can find a good approach to this, because the subject of momentum is the subject that is ready to be explored with more definition by those of you who've been listening to us for a while who are understanding deliberate creation. So we'll start in a basic place. You are offering vibration whether you know that you are or not. That's what we call creation by default. But when you offer a vibration deliberately, which is to say when you think a thought deliberately, that's what we call deliberate creation. When you direct your thoughts based upon how they feel, now you can control momentum. If you say, I want to feel good and I would like this amount of money and I would like this relationship, even with this person, and I would like this bodily condition and I would like to live in this house. In other words, you've been putting all of those things in your vortex. So as you say, I seek these things and I believe that these things are underway. Now you encourage the momentum. You don't slow it. When you say, things are working out for me, you encourage the momentum. When you say, I'm living a good life, you encourage the momentum. When you say, look at that beautiful sunset, or look at that beautiful child, or look at that beautiful healthy animal, you encourage that momentum. When you say, look at that poor sick animal, you thwart the momentum. When you say, I don't have enough money, you thwart the momentum. You slow it down. And you can tell when you're doing the thwarting because you feel a diminishment in your solar plexus. Your emotions let you know. So if we can convince you that feeling good allows the momentum, allows the natural momentum. Now, how did the momentum get started? You knew what you didn't want. You knew what you did want. That you sent off a rocket of desire. Momentum. What continued the momentum? We know what you want. We agree with it. We stand there focusing upon it. We add to the momentum of it. The momentum of well-being is the most powerful force in the universe. In fact, it is the only force in the universe. There is no source of darkness. There is only a source of light. But when the light is disallowed, then you find yourself in darkness. You don't look for the dark switch when you come into a room. You can turn a resistor which will resist the light. Every thought that you think is momentum. So if you are thinking a thought about your inappropriateness, or if you're thinking a thought about your misfortune, or if you're thinking a thought about someone else's misfortune, then that thought has a vibration, and that thought begins to gather other thoughts to it. This source energy from which you come is a momentum and a force that is indescribable in relationship to the puny momentum that you can get going as you worry about unwanted things. In other words, when you worry about something unwanted, all you do is put a stick in your own spokes and slow your own momentum, but you don't keep the earth from spinning in its orbit. You don't keep the plants from continuing to re-nurture. You don't keep babies from continuing to be born. You don't stop the well-being. You just prevent your participation temporarily in the well-being, you see. So when we talk about momentum, we want you to begin to feel this huge momentum of well-being. And when you try just a little bit, that stream will sweep you and it will carry you. And you know it. You find yourself in these moments where you've been in high good humor for a while. Sometimes it's the influence of visiting with a friend. Sometimes it's because you've been in a group environment. Sometimes it's because you've sat in a gathering like this and you've listened to us speak to you of the perfection of that which you are. And as you get that sort of momentum going and it's active in your vibration for just a little while, meaning the other is not active in your vibration for just a little while, you see the evidence of that positive momentum, you see. Well, it doesn't matter if it's a reality or your perception of a reality. It's the vibration of your being that affects you, period. So there are a lot of people who say, well, we live in this world and we cannot put our head in the sand and ignore the reality. And we say, well, you can observe reality as it is or you can create reality. It's your choice. But most people are recreating reality based upon the what is that they are observing. And it's why things go slow for you. And it's why you feel uncomfortable. In other words, create in advance by pre-paving. More than trying to fix things that are broken. Because when you're trying to fix one of those 9 things that isn't going very well, you're off in the weeds. Yeah. When you're trying to fix one of those, you're usually trying to fill in your own grid from a vibrational stance that won't allow it to fill in the way you want it to. So you're just adding more power to the grid that you don't want. Right. Where if you will do what we have called pre-paving, which is just imagine into the future. Imagine it being more the way you want it to be, but be really, really, really general. You see, you've just lost a little bit of confidence because you've been observing the what isness and it's got your attention. And now you've got a sort of cycle going because you've been observing it and offering a vibration about it, so you're getting more of it. And that's why you want to pronounce that most things aren't going well and very few of them are going well. But we want you to know that in all of this, that there's so much in your vortex that will fill in as you find some way somehow to just go general on everything that doesn't feel really good and be as specific as you can be on the things that do feel good. And then just pre-pave it. Do you know what we mean by that?
I do.
Start generally by saying things like, well, it will get better.
Right.
And if that puts a knot in your stomach because you don't believe it, then say, well, I know it's gotten better for some. And if that puts a knot in your stomach because you know it got better for them because you think they were doing something in a better way than you were, then say, I'm going to figure this out. Or I've been here before on some things and I did get a smoother ride eventually. Just keep talking until you give yourself that release. And as you find that release, then you know you've released resistance. But when we say we would pre-pave it, now that's the work that we're encouraging you to do when you're aware that you've got some resistance that you want to let go of. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we'd put ourselves in bed at night and we would say, I'm not going to think about this. I don't have to think about this. I'm just going to get a good night's sleep. And then do your best to sleep. And when you awaken in the morning, sit for 15 minutes with the intention of just quieting your mind and say to yourself, this is my process where I don't think of anything. And if I think of anything, I'll just breathe it away, but I'm not wanting to think of anything. This is my process where I'm just not going to think of anything. I'm just going to focus on my breathing. For 15 minutes, no big deal. I'm just going to relax. This is the beginning of my grid work. I'm just going to relax. I don't have to make anything happen. Everything's in the vortex. It's flowing to me in perfect order. I'm just working on my grid. This is the best I can do right here, right now. It's the best thing that I can do. And in doing this, I'm pre-paving for future experience. Now, what's going to happen as soon as the first day that you do that, go to bed that night and wake up the next morning and sit to meditate and get into that quiet general place? The first day that you do that, your grid will fill in with something that you will associate with that small work that you've done. And your confidence will come right back. And as the grid fills in, what's going to happen is it's going to be perfect in this sense. It's not going to be more specific than you're allowing, but it might not be as specific as you think you want it to be. Did you hear that? It will never be more specific than you're allowing because the law of attraction won't allow that. So it won't be more specific than you're allowing, and it might not be as specific as you want it to be. But that's where you start doing your work. You don't go there. You don't try to fill it in. You don't try to hammer it into place. You don't try to wrestle it to the ground. You just say, hey, I did my work. This is all I need to do on this right now. Nothing more for me to do. Nothing more for me to do. I left it in the perfect place. And as the grid fills in with more specifics, then you can revel in that, you see. And before you know it, all 9 of those subjects, or however many of them they are, you'll have that little experience with them, and you'll just incrementally move every one of them to new and improved place, to new and improved place, until the manifestations will be so obvious that you will know for sure you've got the hang of this. We've enjoyed this interaction immensely.
Thank you so much.
It is delicious to come together with those like you who are out here on the leading edge, who are savoring the simplicity of your core grid. As you play with this just a little bit over the next few days, you're going to have the exhilarating experience of watching your grid fill in as confirmation of the knowledge that you have reconfirmed here. We haven't told you anything today that you didn't know the day you were born.